One of the biggest things I keep hearing about the new 4th Gen Tacoma is that it's overpriced, but everyone's wrong. So, MSRPs. The MSRP for my truck was $54,000. And people are getting the misconception that this is so much more expensive and so overpriced because the last Tacoma, the same spec model, the TRD off-road with a premium package fully loaded, would be about $40,000, everything said and done. You might be saying to yourself, what in the hell is this guy talking about? Clearly that's more expensive. But people keep seeming to forget that inflation exists. You see, most companies give you a new generation vehicle about every 5 years, but Toyota is historically slower in this process. And the 3rd Gen Tacoma was sold from 2016, which means it came out in 2015, to 2023, which means that it was sold for 9 years, which is an incredibly long generational model. So this means the pricing for the 2023 Tacoma, the last 3rd Gen ever made before this one came out, was just about a decade old, so it did not match and keep up with inflation, especially the hyperinflation we've had over the last couple of years. What are you doing? Are you cute? So if you do adjust for when that original pricing came out in 2016 for a TRD off-road, rear locker, full premium package, all that kind of stuff, for the same spec as my 24 truck, right? If you adjust for that, it comes out to about $52,500, which is still cheaper than this truck. Good boy. Come on, big guy. But just because something is more expensive does not mean it's overpriced. I will happily pay a little bit more for something that's a much better value. Let's lock you under there so I can tell everyone why they're wrong. The 3rd Gen Tacoma had famously terrible features because it came out in 2016 and it hardly changed until 2023. I think 2023, 2022 is when it finally got Apple CarPlay, a feature that most manufacturers have put in their car almost 5-7 years before. Another fantastic example of this is the 3rd Gen 2023 Tacoma last year still had drum brakes in the rear, the last new vehicle ever to be sold with them. That's freaking nuts. So really, what are you getting? The 24 Tacoma comes out, it's much more expensive than people think, but really just for inflation, only $2,000. But what do you get for that? What do you get for that money? Well, for the first time ever on the Tacoma, you do get actual disc brakes in the rear. Like I said before, I can't even believe I have to say that. Also, for the first time ever on the Tacoma, you get a fully boxed frame that has rust protection from the factory because Toyota had some problems with their frames and rust in the past. We have a new multi-link solid axle in the rear, which just really improves the overall ride quality and capability of the new Tacoma. And then of course, the biggest change they made, the one that everyone seems to hate, the new 2.4 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. Now, the funny part about this one is that this has by far been one of the most controversial parts of the new Tacoma, the new 4-cylinder turbo. And it's also my favorite part of the new Tacoma. I heavily considered buying a 3rd Gen. I am a reliability nut. I love the idea of buying something that's gonna last forever, that's built super quality, and that has had all the kinks worked out like the 3rd Gen. It's one of the advantages of having a truck that's been running for so long in the same model year, same generation, that they've worked out all the problems. That 23 Tacoma is bulletproof. But I'm so glad I got the 24 Tacoma because of this engine and a couple other things we'll talk about later. But after driving and spending time in the 3rd Gen Tacoma, the powertrain is just so outdated and underpowered. It kind of sucks. It's super reliable, it'll last forever, but it gets terrible fuel efficiency and it just feels like a dog going up anything. And I live in the mountains, I'm constantly going up passes at 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 feet. It just sucks to drive one of those up here. Not to mention if you're gonna put modifications like I already have on my 4th Gen, bigger tires, roof racks, stuff that makes it harder for the truck to go down the road, it makes those problems even bigger. The 3rd Gen had notoriously bad transmission problems where they would constantly be gear hunting on the highway and the speed you want to be going, 70 to 85 miles an hour. And this just solves everything. The power band is amazing. It makes peak torque at 1700 RPM. The 8-speed transmission constantly puts you in that power range that you want to be in. There's no more gear hunting, even with the bigger tires I already have on the truck. It's just such a better engine and powertrain overall. The second I drove one of these, whenever I was heavily considering a 3rd Gen, I was like, all right, I can't justify spending similar amounts of money for a 3rd Gen that's just simply inferior in every single way that I found to this truck. And that leads me to yet another gigantic upgrade over the 3rd Gen, and that is the interior of the new 4th Gen Tacoma. I mean, it's like it's not even the same vehicle. It's like it doesn't feel like it should be called a Tacoma anymore. This is so different and such an improvement over the last generation. The 3rd Gen Tacoma barely got Apple CarPlay in the last couple of years of its generation. This one, the 4th Gen, has a honestly kind of absurd 14-inch infotainment system, Apple CarPlay, Onyx, everything you could ever want. It's gigantic. And what also displays on that screen is the new camera system for the 4th Gen Tacoma, which is one of my favorite parts of the technology package that you get. You have 360 cameras all around the truck, so obviously that helps with parking, but also off-road. Like today, I'm doing all this by myself. This is an all right trail, and I can perfectly place my tires exactly where I want them every single time. I can see around me. I'm making sure I'm not messing up my brand new truck because the camera system on this truck is just simply amazing. Toyota knocked it out of the park with the technology on this. And then of course you have heated and cooled seats, which is awesome. Dual climate control, heated steering wheel, just like the technology overall is so much better. And one of the things I noticed as well is that the road noise is much quieter in here to the 3rd Gen. The 3rd Gen, by the end of its generation, was actually pretty good for a truck, but this takes it to the next step, and it is such a nice riding experience in here. And I've honestly been blown away by the technology in this thing, at least for a truck. And I know there are going to be those people out there that are like, I want my truck, I don't want no features, I want it to be open top. It's just like, people are so crazy and dumb in the comments. If you don't know, people love to comment on all the new features and all the new trucks, and they're basically suggesting that it should have no features whatsoever because it's a truck and it has a truck bed. It's one of the stupidest and most moronic points I've ever seen on the internet. As time goes on, vehicles get nicer and more features. That's how it's happened since the beginning. Those people always remind me of the people, like way back in the day whenever automobiles first came out, people with wagons were like, you're gonna run out of gas in the middle of nowhere. That's way inferior to a horse and wagon. Like, that was a legitimate concern for a long time with a lot of people. Or like, that's a ridiculous thing. You're never gonna need that. I'm gonna stick with this. And that's what those people always remind me of. It's just super ridiculous and really dumb. Come on, bud, we gotta get home. It took way longer to get up here than I thought. Oh. Another thing that is huge on the new Tacoma is that it has Toyota Safety Sense 3.0. So this thing basically drives itself. It has lane centering and adaptive cruise. Oh my God, that beeping is one of the most annoying things about this new truck though. It beeps even though I'm in 4-low and off-road. It's so annoying. But yeah, the adaptive cruise is incredible. It has adaptive cruise, so you can set the speed or it'll base the speed off the person in front of you. It has lane centering, so it keeps you in the center of the lane. You just have to let it know by putting your hands on the steering wheel every once in a while, and it will literally drive itself for you. That combined with the super quiet interior and nice ride of the new multi-link rear is honestly pretty amazing for a truck. Like, I've ridden in nicer cars and Audis and Porsches and everything, and you know, the high-end models of those are maybe a step above this, but it's really getting close. It's amazing how nice and just comfortable modern cars are. Oh my God, stop beeping. That being said, I did come to this vehicle from a 1986 Volkswagen Vanagon, which has some of the worst noise vibration harshness ratings out there. And so this feels like a limo to me, but I have been in those nicer cars and it really is close. And just a couple weeks ago, I did a 1,200-mile road trip, 32 hours in the truck, and it was honestly fine. That 32 hours, I'd much rather do that than like an 8-hour drive in my van, because it's just so comfortable in here. I could have the truck drive itself and I can listen to a podcast or a book and it's not a problem. So yes, after inflation is adjusted, this truck is $2,000 more, but man, are you getting so much more for that money in a truck that is actually up to modern standards. Apple CarPlay, a super sophisticated camera system, modern suspension in the rear, freaking disc brakes in the rear. It's just, to me, such a better value for the money. And this is something I went over whenever I had the money to buy a new vehicle. I was like, should I get the old reliable 3rd Gen or should I get the new one? And I did that value proposition in my head, and it just came out so clear after test driving the 4th Gen that it was the way to go. Especially because I am someone who is worried about the reliability, and that's a huge reason I would buy a Tacoma. This has a warranty. People always seem to forget that that's a thing, but I'm gonna be good for the next decade on this vehicle. If it breaks or not, it's gonna be fixed by Toyota, right? Like, I'm not buying a 10-year-old, 5-year-old vehicle that I have no idea what someone did with the maintenance. I'm buying a brand new vehicle with a warranty, and you know, 7-10 years down the line, right before the warranty goes out, if I don't like the way it's holding up, I can sell it and I can, you know, move on and get my next purchase from there. Man, this is just such a better truck than the last gen Tacoma, and the engine, I'm getting way better gas mileage. My friend with a comparable build is getting about 16, 17 miles to the gallon, I believe, and I'm regular getting in the low 20s in this thing, and that's with bigger wheels and tires, roof rack, all that kind of deal. I was getting closer to 25 stock. Which is unbelievable in a truck, especially one that's not the hybrid option. You can get the hybrid option on the new Tacoma, but this is the regular 4-banger turbo, and I'm so happy with it so far. I do have to say I did a bunch of research into this 4-cylinder turbo because I was skeptical just like everyone else. And something that I don't think a lot of people know is that they really did a lot of testing and designing on this new engine. And it's like, technically it should be more reliable than the V6, the old V6 in the 3rd gen. I know it sounds crazy to say, but it is beefed up so much that if you look at the overall, those big bumps, overall stress ratings, it's actually lower on the main parts like the pistons and the rod bearings and everything. Like the engine's only 15% smaller than the old engine, the V6, but the rod bearings are 30% bigger. So if you do the averages, there's less average stress on those rod bearings than the V6 and the old V6. And plus you get turbo noises in this vehicle, which I am just such a little 17-year-old JDM fanboy about. So I know a big thing that people are going to wait for with this truck is to see how it does hold up over the 100,000 mile, 200,000 mile, and 300,000 mile ranges. Right now, that is the biggest question because that is a huge reason why people buy Toyota. They want to get to those mileages with their vehicles with basic maintenance. And with most Toyotas you can. With this, I actually think you're going to be able to do that. The turbo might go out around 200,000 miles. That's just usually how long turbos last, but honestly, you can replace that and keep on going. So we'll see. But if this does make it to those mileages with, you know, around the same amount of problems that the 3rd gen had, people seem to forget that the 3rd gen had a bunch of, well, warranty issues as well. But with the same relative reliability, I think this truck is just going to be such a smash hit and an absolute no-brainer for buying this over a 3rd gen. But of course, everyone's got their own opinions. Let me know yours down in the comments. I want to know if I genuinely made a good point or if I'm just stupid and I'm completely missing something. So yeah, I want to know what you guys think too, so comment down below. And follow along and hit subscribe if you want to see me take this thing on some awesome adventures. This was a fun little day hitting a mountain while making this video. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.